Hey, and welcome back to my channel. We are in section 5 of fitting for apparel design. This is going to be the last section for this series. And in this section, we're going to talk about how you're going to create and maintain consistent fit for your brand over time. And the answer to that is blocks. I'm also going to talk to you about designing with fit in mind so that you can start out your fit process right from the very beginning in the design phase. To keep consistent fit across styles in your brand, there's 3 things that we need to keep in mind. The first is to create a collection of blocks. The second is to design with fit in mind. And the third is to create and maintain a size chart. So what are blocks? Your block is your base pattern, and it's going to be unchanging over time. It doesn't have any details on it or anything like that. No real trendy style lines or anything. It's just a basic block pattern for you to be able to work from in order for you to create stylized garments. And the key to having a great block is having a perfected fit among all of your sizes. You're going to use your block to create more stylized garments. It's going to be the foundation that you always go back to when you're starting the design for a garment, because it already has all of the key measurements for a perfect fit that you've already determined. You may need to develop a block not only for different styles, like a woven shirt versus a t-shirt, but you may also want to create a block for different fabrics that you carry in your line. For example, let's take into consideration a woven shirt. Maybe you have a regular fit, 100% cotton woven shirt for men, and then you also have a slim fit that is a blend of poly cotton. You're going to want to create a block for both of those, not only because of the fit difference, but also because the fabrics are different. I like to think of the block as the bare bones. It really has no stylistic elements on it at all. It's just the basic measurements. And what's great about creating a block up front is you're able to just plug in those measurements in your tech pack and create tech packs so much faster. To use your block, all you have to do is add those stylistic elements. So let's talk about our woven shirt again. You may add a different collar shape with a collar stand or without a collar stand, a different pocket shape. Maybe the hem vent is a little bit different or the placket width has changed and you're using different buttons. Those are all the elements that are going to go into making it unique, but the measurements are always going to stay the same. So all you have to do is copy your block tech pack and then add those stylistic elements to it and you're ready to go. To keep it efficient and cost effective, I recommend developing a series of blocks with a trusted factory. That way they can keep your patterns, they can provide you with a block sample, and you can continue to develop your new styles that are based off of your block with them. Just be sure to let them know that you're trying to develop a block so that they know that this specific development won't result in any orders, but will result in many more future orders. This will also allow them to keep the pattern in a special file just for you. Factories are willing to help you develop blocks because it makes less work for them in the future and makes the process much more efficient. There's much less back and forth during fittings, and they can get essentially their money faster. Alternatively, you can create your own blocks. You can reach out to an agency to help you develop blocks, or you can contact a local pattern maker to help you. Then when you go to your factory, you can let them know that you already have a block developed, but do be aware that in some cases, the factory may want to redevelop the pattern and a sample on their own first. So how do you create your own blocks? You want to start out with foundation patterns, which are the patterns that I've been talking about this whole series that are included in the fitting DIY kit. And while I have been referencing them as blocks, they are technically foundation patterns or slopers. But all of these words can kind of be interchanged, and especially in the industry, they're interchanged a lot. So I have been calling them blocks just so that designers like you are able to find them. But in reality, you're going to be using the foundation patterns from this kit to develop your blocks. Of course, if you want to DIY your foundation patterns as well, you can definitely do that. I do talk a little bit about basic pattern making in section 1 of this series, and I also recommend some books if you want to get a little bit more educated on that. In section 1, I also go over what the difference between a sloper, a block, and a foundation pattern is, but let's quickly revisit that. As I said earlier, a block is an unchanging pattern that acts as the foundation for creating stylized garments. It doesn't have any style lines or style elements. It's really just there for those fundamental measurements that you'll be using to create new styles. A sloper is a simple pattern with no seam allowance and no ease. A foundation pattern is a simple, unchanging pattern that is in the basic silhouettes that are used to develop all sorts of other styles. The foundation patterns are the starting point for creating your blocks. So you might be wondering, how do you use your foundation patterns to create blocks? We talked a lot about this in section 1, which was all about pattern making, and you're essentially going to be moving the darts and the contour and the fullness to different parts of the pattern in order to create a stylized pattern set. Once you've completed that block pattern, you can then create a muslin sloper and fit it on a model or on a fit form. And we talked all about fitting in the last section of this series in section 4. Once you have your muslin sloper fit, you can then translate all of those changes onto your original block pattern, and then you can finalize any changes. And then your block is done. You can then use your block to create stylized garments, just like that woven shirt that we were talking about earlier. If you want to learn more about common pattern adjustments, then I definitely suggest picking up the book I recommended earlier in the series, which is Pattern Making for Fashion Design by Helen Joseph Armstrong. As I talked about earlier in this series, I will be including a graded set of the basic foundation patterns in the fitting DIY kit. So for the ladies blocks, that will be from sizes 0 to 18 or from extra small to extra large. I have both the numeric and alphanumeric size charts included in that kit. And the foundation patterns for the ladies blocks are a bodice with a sleeve and the skirt. For the men's blocks, I have sizes 30 to 48, which is also extra small to extra large. I have both the numeric and alphanumeric sizes included. And the pattern blocks that are included in that are a woven shirt with a sleeve and the pant foundation. And like I said, these are the basic blocks for creating virtually any style. You can create t-shirts, dresses, jackets, skirts, pretty much anything you can think of all starts with these blocks. All right, so now you have your blocks created. How are you supposed to store them? I definitely suggest keeping all of your blocks and block samples on a rack. I suggest not folding your block patterns and instead having them on tagboard or a thicker cardstock and then hung on a rack with the muslin samples. By having everything together on a rack, they can easily be referenced anytime during fittings or during development. I do want to note that you may need to change your blocks at some point, but usually this is very few and far between. As you have probably heard me talk about, size trends do change over time. So you just want to, every few years, make sure that you are double checking that your block still represents your size chart and your customer. I also suggest taking into consideration reviews from your consumers. Are they saying that something fits strange? Are you consistently getting the same feedback? That means it may be time to update your block. Also, if you're continuing to make the same fit changes over and over and over again, that definitely means that you need to go back to your block, make that change so that all of the garments coming off of that block don't have that fit issue. All right, and then I just want to talk about designing with fit in mind, because if you can start out the design of your garments with taking fit into consideration, you will save yourself so much headache and so much money going forward. As we talked about in section 1, it's all about darts, tucks, pleats, contour, and fullness. Always keep these things in mind when you're designing a garment. How are you going to create that fullness that you want in your dress? How are you going to contour the body? If you think about how you are actually going to be able to construct these things, then it can be a lot easier when you're going through the design process instead of having to change your design down the line because you designed something that is very complicated to construct. As both a technical designer and designer, I love to be creative and let my creative juices flow, but I'm always asking myself, how am I actually going to construct this? Or how is my factory actually going to make this? And that has saved me so much time and money going through the design process. Also, take into consideration the relationship of different landmark points on the body. The bust, waist, and hip all have their own relationship rules. The cap, bicep, elbow, and wrist all work together to create a well-fitted sleeve. And the same goes for pants. The hip, thigh, waist, and rise are the signature for creating a well-fitting pant. And keeping in mind all of these relationships will definitely help you create a well-fitted garment going forward. I encourage you to take some time to educate yourself on the anatomy of the body and how these relationships work together. There are a lot of design elements that can help you create a better fit. For example, if you're using heavy-duty fabric, like on an outerwear piece, you might consider putting articulation into the arm, and that can be done with a dart at the elbow. The articulation allows for mobility of the sleeve, especially when there's a lot of layers or when there is a heavy-duty fabric being used on the garment. Another common design element that I love to include for a better fit is a forward shoulder seam. A forward shoulder seam allows for the shoulder to lay against the body a little bit better. Instead of kind of like sticking up, you probably have seen some shirts where the seam just kind of like sticks up like this, and having it slightly forward allows it to contour to the body better and just allows for an overall better fit. We already talked a little bit about ease, but definitely keep that in mind as you're designing your garments, because you're going to want to include both fit ease and design ease for the mobility and comfort of your garment. And finally, to create consistent fit, it all depends on your size chart. And you probably already know, I do already have a tutorial up on creating your own size chart and explaining more about grading. And in section 2 of this series, we talked more about grading as well. But I just wanted to mention it here again, and I'll definitely include those links down below for those tutorials. But your size chart is where everything starts. So you really want to make sure that your size chart is perfect, because that will make your blocks perfect, and that will make sure that your garments are fitting consistently across your size run. As a part of the fitting DIY kit, I've also included an accompanying size chart depending on which blocks you choose. And that includes the grade, all of the sizes, including UK sizes, and a bunch of landmark points on the body, so that you can see how the blocks in the fitting DIY kit translate to your size chart. That's also why I've included such a wide range of sizes, so that it's super easy to translate that to your own size chart. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. That is the end of this series. I will definitely be back soon with another. If you are considering purchasing the fitting DIY kit, I want to say a special thank you to you. As you know, all of my education is 100% free. I don't even require your email to sign up, and that is only possible through the sale of my digital products. So thank you so much for your support and for all of your kindness through the series. I have seen so many amazing comments and testimonials from you guys, especially on Instagram. So thank you so much. Keep those coming. They keep me encouraged to continue to provide all of my education for free to you guys. So until next time, thank you so much.